This video will contain spoilers. This is actually recording. Goddamn. I feel like it's gotten to the point where I need to hit record twice every single time because I did the first time I'll just show up that message saying, oh, there's not enough RAM, we'll close some maps, then we'll start recording, and then it just doesn't start recording. But anyway, Terrifier. Universally negative ratings. I watched it on Tubi with Harry, Ginger, and Binman. David Howard Fortin. This is quite possibly the scariest movie I have ever seen. Which is surprising because I watched it at home. I didn't watch it in cinema. Like, I've seen quite a few scary movies in cinema. Like, the First Omen and Late Night with the Devil. And in the case of something like The First Omen, like, what made it so scary was the build-up to it. And then the actual jump scare itself. It was a bit weak, but it's fine because I'm a pussy with this. There was no build up, it just happened, which, yes, that does make it cheap, but there was just something about it that made it so much better than any other horror film that did cheap jump scares. Like, for example, Immaculate. Cheap jump scares, pussy shit. Yeah, I jumped, but it was like fucking nothing. But this did something different. I don't know what it is. I don't get why the ratings are so low. I get. Sorry, there's someone using a saw like a couple doors over, and it's very loud, which is weird considering my window is closed. I don't get why the ratings are so low. I understand that the acting isn't all that good, apart from David Howard Fortin, but like, does it really make it that bad? It's like, what was it, a 2 out of 5 on one of the things? I'm not gonna look. Seeing this after Terrifier 3, it's a bit weird because, Terrifier 3 wasn't really scary, it was just funny. And there's only really one funny bit where Art gave the middle finger to either Tara or Victoria, whichever one stabbed him. And speaking of Victoria, like, it is, you know what's going to happen because they show Victoria, like, post that event at the start of the film, so you know what's going to happen, but it's just even. It felt forced because they said that what had happened was Art had literally ate her face, and that is what happened. They don't show that. Like, what I remember happening, and I seen this a while back. What I remember happening is that Art is about to run her over in a car, and I think she does get hit by the car, but the car hits like her legs, her stomach. Like, it doesn't hit her face, and she doesn't land on anything. She just lands on the ground. So nothing could have like stabbed her or anything like that. They said the Art had at her face. They don't show that, and it's a bit shit. As for how Victoria would go from, hating Art to loving him, at least I think it's love, I'm not entirely sure. It does kind of make sense because traumatic shit like what happens in this, it can fuck you up like that. And it's sort of a Stockholm Syndrome thing. But it stuff like that, it makes me feel fucking terrible inside. Where you have this character who they are, for the most part, normal, and then something happens and they sort of join who the enemy, or who they perceive the enemy to be. Like William Stryker in the X-Men films, he was very, very anti-mutant, but then they turned him into a mutant. And even though he is a bad guy, it's still it gave me the jitters. And I guess the final thing to talk about is Art did the fucking like Undertaker funeral. I just just what the fuck? That's all I can say about that. The Apprentice, universally or positive ratings. I watched it in cinema with Peter. Sebastian Stan, Jeremy Strong. Probably the only people I recognize. Yeah. Just to be clear, I do have a bias. I do try and look at things neutrally, but with this, it is impossible to look at it without a bias. I support Donald Trump, and I support him in the 2016 election, I support him in the 2020 election, and I support him currently in the 2024 election. I'm not American or anything, I can't vote, but if I were American, if I could vote, I would vote for him. And that's all I'm going to say about the political thing of it, like my opinion on him. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I don't think it's coincidental that this was released in October. Because there's a term called the October surprise where the Democrats will drop a piece of information about Trump that will they hope that it will drive voters away from him. So, for example, this year, the October surprise was that he raped a woman in 1986, I think it was, 38 years ago. And I'm not saying that it's outright not true, but it's just 38 years, you didn't, like, the alleged victim didn't speak out when he ran for president in 2000. She didn't speak out when he ran for president in 2016. She didn't speak out when he ran for president in 2020. And she's only speaking out now that he's running for president in 2024. Why? I get that for 2000 he wasn't the main Democratic candidate. But 2016, 2020, he was the main Republican candidate. And for 2020, he was the fucking president. Why didn't you speak out then? So that's why I find this being released in October, like, I think that was intentional. So that people will watch this and they'll see the bad shit that he does in this and think, oh, I didn't know he was like this. And I don't think it's worth voting him in. Like, I think the only group that they don't show him being bad to is the Jews. Like, they show him raping his wife and making comments about other women. They show him being very homophobic towards Jeremy Strong's character. So much to the point where when he found out that Jeremy Strong has AIDS, he got people to very heavily disinfect everything that Jeremy Strong had been around. There was other people that he was bad to, but I can't remember. It's been a couple of days. And it's, again, I'm not saying it's outright not true. I'm just saying that I doubt it. Like, if Ivana actually was raped in, I think, the 70s it was, maybe early 80s, she would have said something. I think she's dead now, but she hasn't been dead that long. Like, she's had 30, 40 years to say something, and she didn't. Or at least I don't think she did. Maybe she did and I just don't know. But moving on from all the bad things, the good things about it, the music was amazing. Sebastian Stan, I get that it's mostly makeup and prosthetics and shit, but he looked like Donald Trump. And there's also one bit where he kind of looked like Mark Hamill, which I'm bringing that up because I did see someone saying that they should cast him as Luke Skywalker if they ever bring him back for like the Mandalorian or something, instead of getting Mark Hamill to like just try and de-age him with CGI or AI or something. Um, I'm glad that they didn't do the sort of typical impression of Trump. I can't do it myself, but you know what I'm talking about. Look at any impression of Trump, it's all the same. And yes, that is how he talks, but maybe that's only how he talks now. I don't know what he talked like back then in the 70s and 80s when this film takes place. So I'm glad that he didn't do an impression like that. And I think the only thing I have to say is that I don't know where Trump's mum is from, but the girl that plays her in this seems to switch accents. For most of the film, she sounds the same as Ivana, but then during one particular scene, she sounds Irish. I don't get what's up with that. One last thing I forgot to mention about the film. I like how they sort of, at least I think what it is that it shows how he started talking the way that he does. And I don't mean his voice, I mean the way that he'll say, I'm building this thing. It's gonna be a great thing. It's gonna be the best thing you've ever seen. They show that with him talking about building. It wasn't Trump Tower, it was the Trump Hotel, I think. Anyway, Paddington 2 universally positive ratings. I watched it in the cinema. Ben Whishaw, Hugh Grant, Brendan Gleeson, Sally Hawkins, Simon Farnaby. I swear I've seen him all over the place. Also, is it just me or does Madeline Harris look like Amanda from The Next Step? Richard Ayoade, Michael Gambon, Peter Capaldi, Ben Miller, Jessica Hines, Sanjeev Bhaskar, I seen the first film when it came out 10 years ago, and I do remember quite liking it. And there were some scenes that even now are still in my head, like the bit where Paddington fought that what's the character's name again? Henry was God. But by the time the second film came out, I would have been about 13, and I was probably thinking, I'm too old for this childish shit at the time. Obviously now I'll watch anything really. Um, and they did play the first film in cinema just before this one, so I did see them back to back. And a couple of days ago, I seen a thing saying that like it was a list of films that have a better sequel, such as Empire Strikes Back, Alien 2, and this. Gotta say, I think one is better, but this is based. One, the casting, or no, not starting at the casting, that wasn't something that was based about it. There was a line where they say that actors are some of the most evil people on the planet. True. All the shit that's going on, all these celebrities that have been found out to be pedophiles. Yeah, that's not an inaccurate statement. I do like how they cast Hugh Grant as the villain. I feel like his character kind of reflects Hugh's career, where he was a leading man in like late 90s, early 2000s. But what did he really do between like Bridget Jones 2 and Bridget Jones 3? You know, I can't, like, he's had a bit of a revival since. Like, he did this, he did Dungeons and Dragons. He has Heretic coming out in a couple of days. There's something else he did recently, I think. But, like, if I look at what he has done, the things he's done recently: Heretic, Unfrosted, Wonka, Dungeons and Dragons, Glass Onion, Very English Scandal, Gentleman, Paddington 2. And if I look at the... I wasn't even in Bridget Jones 3. I've never seen any of them, so I didn't know that. Like, right. Last thing I know of is Bridget Jones 2, 2004. And then the thing after that he did that I know of is The Pirates, which came out in 2012. But he wasn't even, like... One, it's animated, and two, he wasn't even, like, a main character or anything, as far as I know. Man from U.N.C.L.E., which... I barely remember that film. Maybe had a major role. Who knows? Then Paddington 2. So, I feel like he was perfect casting. Although I do think Nicole Kidman's character in the first film was a better villain than Hugh Grant's. Just in terms of writing, not in terms of acting or anything like that. They did something that I didn't think would have been possible. I mean, I'll explain what I mean first, and then I'll explain what I mean. And this may be more confusing for everyone. You know, Paddington spent a good chunk of the film in prison. And those prison scenes were hilarious, but there wasn't a lot of plot progression. But it worked, and people didn't hate it. Usually it's the kind of thing people would hate. Not me, though. I still think it's great. Everyone thinks it's great. It's just... Excuse me. Usually everyone doesn't when it comes to things like that. I like how they brought back the majority of the characters and then add even more on top of that. I like it when things do that, where they are able to expand everything while leaving almost nothing behind. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else to say. There was something else that was based, but I can't think of what that is. There is one final review coming pretty soon. I have 3 episodes left of the show. But other than that, there's not going to be much, like... You know, I'm still watching Doctor Who. I'm finally on the Sean Pertwee era, which I think I've already said in our John Pertwee era, which I think I've already said in a previous video. So I've still got a long way to go with that. And then I'm still on ER, which I haven't seen all week because of something personal that happened, which I'm not going to get into.